What's up, sassy gamers? Today is, what is today? January 20th, 2022. It's season 2, episode 32. I had a lot of 2s today. Jeez. And I'm here with Kelly, Bruno, I think, and Brian.
Bruno,
And
I think.
I'm not sure who this guy is, actually. Like, we haven't seen Bruno for a while. I leave for an episode, and then I come back, and then he's been replaced with younger, more sophisticated, awesome-looking, I guess, Bruno. Like Bruno 2.0. We have like Bruno 2.0 now.
I went to the hospital like a month and a half ago, and then I got my booster. I think the booster's what did it to me. I suddenly
it sounds like you got cybernetics.
Yeah, so one of the side effects of getting your third microchip is you change. You change a lot. So
wow, wild.
Yeah.
But hey, today there is a lot of news revolving around one topic, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, you're obviously living under a rock. But one of the largest acquisitions for gaming world for sure. But before we get into all of that, we have the obvious Kelly's Corner.
My corner here. Okay, I always add the extra little thing at the end because I'm expecting this last beat and it never comes. I don't know why. Okay, so I've got just a couple of.
Had a bad joke, but.
Right? That's such a shame, Kelly. I'm so sorry for you.
All right. So while I do my, weekly research for news that gets my attention, I ran across something about something teeny tiny, which we always know catches my attention. There's another joke for that there too. So I ran into an article about this place called Mill Ends Park. It's in Portland, Oregon, and it is the smallest park in the world. And it's adorable, which got me. So I read the article, which had a couple of details, but I was like, there's got to be more to this park, right? So I went to the park's actual website and learned that a man named Dick Fagan returned from World War II. I know that's not a joke. And in 1946, he was a journalist for the Oregon Journal. And his office was on the second floor of just an office building. And they were fixing up the road and stuff. And they created this little circular concrete thing where they were going to put in a phone pole or an electrical pole, and they never ended up putting one in, and like weeds and stuff started growing in there, and so he just took it upon himself to plant flowers and stuff, and so he wrote this column called Mill Ends, and mill ends are, according to their website, rough, irregular pieces of lumber left over at lumber mills. So that was his column. So he named the park after his column. The park was actually dedicated on St. Patrick's Day in 1948. So Fagan was Irish and used to tell stories about how the park was the home to all of these leprechauns, and only he could see the lead leprechaun and stuff like that. It's super cute. So they said the park has been home to a small swimming pool and diving board for butterflies, many statues, a miniature Ferris wheel that, by the way, was brought in by a normal-sized crane, and the occasional flying saucer. So the reason why this is a big deal is it was temporarily moved in 2006 because the street that it used to be on was renamed. It was Front Street. It was renamed to Naito Parkway. I may be mispronouncing that one, Naito. And so in 2006, they had to do some more construction to create Nido Parkway, and then it was replaced. So they brought it right back, put it back in the same spot, and on St. Patrick's Day, everybody celebrated. Oh, the park's reopened. Then in December, this past December, they had to do more construction. So they were putting in like bike lanes and stuff. So they actually had to completely remove the park and relocate the park a whopping 6 inches from where it used to be. but because Fagin was Irish and he had this Irish folklore around the park, they actually changed the border of the park to a clover leaf. So if we have any listeners in Oregon, in Portland specifically, if you are anywhere near there, take a picture of the new park, because I was not able to find a new picture for the park.
Take a selfie.
Yeah, take a selfie too, please,
with the park and send it into GOA@sasgaming.com.
Please. So I thought that was adorable. My next article is an update of Doug the Spud. Do you guys remember who Doug the Spud is?
Yeah, I remember Doug the Spud.
Doug the Spud, the world's largest potato.
Australia, right? Wasn't it?
New Zealand. Oh
New
my
Zealand.
God. Yeah, New Zealand.
I think it was somewhere over there.
Well,
they're different people. I get that.
Yeah. So it was Colin and Donna Craig Brown, and Doug the Spud was 17 pounds, and they took all sorts of pictures of it and carried it around in a little wagon and stuff. Well, the Guinness Book of World Records has asked them for DNA evidence. Apparently, there's been a bunch of back and forth, and Colin and Donna have just done everything that Guinness has asked, but apparently it's just not enough. So they finally had to take a sliver off of Doug and send it over for DNA analysis to find out, exactly what kind of genus it is. So that's where we are.
Are you saying at this point now we're going to have those large potatoes in our grocery store now? Is that what they're going to do?
I mean,
I think that's
maybe there's a good chance.
I think the Guinness Book of World Records is selling that to some farmer somewhere. I'm going to start breeding mutated potatoes.
Yes.
Just watch 6 months from now, we're going to have like these massive potatoes in the grocery store.
Yeah.
You're like, that's interesting.
I'm not cooking that 17-pound potato. Oh my God. Especially with inflation right now.
Fries.
Can you imagine what a 17-pound potato would cost?
Well, I mean, a 5-pound
at least 7% more of what it would have cost a year ago.
Yeah.
Although I got to admit though that I don't think they're interested in cloning it, because I mean they really don't use potatoes in making
prove that it's a potato
in making that beer.
Yeah. So Doug, though, I will tell you, has lost a little weight. So they've put Doug in the freezer so that he doesn't lose any moisture, any more moisture.
Freeze dried Spud. Doug the Spud.
The cryogenics. Is that
basically?
Okay.
What was the folklore Walt Disney's head is in the freezer? All right. The last one I had is something that everybody's probably already seen.
It was
you
new to
haven't
me.
seen it yet? Okay.
I saw the headline, but I didn't actually. Didn't grab my attention enough to click it.
Yeah, I was getting the girls ready for school this morning, and my husband had the TV on in the background. I was like, "Wait, what just happened?" This reporter in West Virginia was broadcasting live about a broken water main or something, and suddenly gets hit by a car.
Unfortunately, in freeze thaw, we see this water main breaks.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, I just got hit by a car, but I'm okay, Tim.
That's the first
I love this
okay.
part.
Woo!
Where she
We're
says,
all good. I'm okay.
Standing up again.
That's live TV for you. It's all good. I actually got hit by a car in college too, just like that.
Wow.
I am so glad I'm okay.
Yeah.
I got hit by dude, just like that. Oh
Wow.
God.
I'm used to this.
What?
Yeah. Apparently, it was that reporter's last week at work at that station, at least, and she really went out with a bang. Her name is Tori Yorgi. And she was actually, toward the end of the video, you can see she actually picks up the camera. She was all by herself. She was doing 100% of the reporting. She did not have a camera person with her. So.
Yep.
Good for her. And she handled it like a champ. She just got right up. She's like, oh, it's okay. Are you okay? I'm okay. Oh, don't worry about me. And she did end up going to the hospital later on just to get checked out. But she's all set. So
that's pretty random.
Yeah.
Also random. Did you guys hear that Ben Stiller got arrested in Australia?
Wait, what?
No.
Dwayne Johnson.
For wait, what?
Yeah, for shooting Dwayne Johnson. So apparently there's a Ben Stiller in Australia that shot another Dwayne Johnson and got arrested. Oh, I thought that was fun.
Oh, that's awesome. I like that. Yeah.
That is crazy.
Well, now the mainstream Dwayne should go to Australia and take out fake Ben Stiller.
There you go.
He's not fake, but he's not famous, so he's not a real person.
Yeah.
None of us are real.
Sure. All
Just
right.
NPCs.
Well, it is time for the actual news, right? I guess. It's quite funny that sounds very slow after hearing the fast
I'd also
one for
like to
so
point
long.
out that you said the actual news right after we finished the story with actual news.
On the actual news, but whatever.
With an actual
Cool.
news reporter.
You know what, Mike?
That's what I'm here for.
One person's news
Hey
is
man,
another person's.
this is her last week. Give her a break. It's still actual news.
I say words and people listen to it. No, if you haven't been living under a rock, which and it's funny because this story really hit a lot of people that I knew weren't even really into this kind of thing. But it's such a major story. But anyway, to it. So Microsoft announced earlier this week that there was an acquisition, which they've been already rumors of them acquiring another company. It's in the works. But they came out and announced that they are acquiring Activision Blizzard for $68.7 billion.
$1 billion.
Now, Activision Blizzard, if you're not familiar with either of those, think about, on a face value, you think about, World of Warcraft or Call of Duty. Those are the two that, like, a lot of people, most people that don't do anything gaming, they at least know those two things. But we're going to kind of break that down because there's a lot to kind of unpack with this. Not to mention, the history of the acquisitions that Microsoft has already been purchasing and has acquired over the last few years. So it's just a massive story. And I guess I'll hand it over to Phoenix to kind of take it away.
I mean, there's only one story here. Why couldn't they afford the extra $300 million?
Well, I think it's more of the discount price,
How do you do that and not say, let's just do the extra $300 million just because it'd be funny that all these news sites have $69 billion. There's actually a couple sites out there that actually have rounded up. And some just say
some of them just round right up to $70 billion. They're like, $70 billion.
They skipped it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what's an extra billion in a third to between friends? They essentially, this was an normally these things take a lot of negotiation, a lot of time. Mm-hmm. And technically there's still a lot of time to go because just like when we reported about Bethesda, or ZeniMax technically, which was purchased for $7.5 billion, almost 10 times less. But just like that, they make the announcement, but they still have to go through the regulatory stuff. The FTC has to look at a number of people like that. So it takes a while before it truly is finished. But still, there's usually a long negotiation period before they get to the point where they even make the announcement. And apparently it wasn't that long this time. Per multiple sources, both what Phil Spencer, now the CEO of Microsoft Gaming, got a promotion. some of the things he said, some of the things that reporters have gotten from inside sources and things like that have shown that this was extremely fast paced. This essentially started in October.
Wow.
Now, they had started thinking about it when the news of Activision Blizzard's past vile indiscretions started coming to light.
That's a good way to put it.
They started thinking about it when it started coming to light in July, and they waited a little bit, and then they finally approached and said, listen, you guys, we'll give you $95 a share, which if you go and look, they're currently trading around the 40s, $42, $45 right now.
Higher than I expected, to be honest, but
yeah. I'm sure Zycia will look it up for us and tell us in a moment. He's typing away, I'm sure. But the point is that's actually normal when a company buys out another company, is that there's no reason for them to offer the same price of what the shares are selling for right now, because no one's going to sell their company for that. That's what they're trading for. Mm-hmm. They can just let people buy stock for that, So it's normal that they pay more. If you think about it, though, that if they're paying about like $40 or $45 over what it's trading at right now, imagine when Activision Blizzard was trading for $100 a share. So instead of paying $140 a share, they're paying $95 a share. So they're doing the smart thing from the Microsoft side, where they waited for the price to go down, literally. And then they offered a buyout. And apparently Phil Spencer worked right through the holidays with another group of people. It's nice to see that the upper people putting in crunch time, as it were, not necessarily just the developers. So that was kind of cool. Yeah. To give you an idea of how big this is, I'm going to quickly name off some stuff. Disney bought 3 things: Pixar, Marvel, and Star Wars, for $7.4 billion for Pixar and $4 billion each for Marvel and Star Wars. Marvel, which has made with its movies in excess of $22 billion. So quite a bit of a payout for them for their $4 billion investment. Star Wars, $4 billion. And everybody was like, oh my God.
Oh my God, that's massive. Oh my God, can you believe how much money they spent on Star Wars?
Yeah. And it was only $4 billion. Mojang, the developer behind Minecraft, one of the largest games in the world, $2.5 billion. Microsoft bought them in 2014. Facebook bought Oculus for $2 billion. Activision themselves bought King and became Activision Blizzard King. King, the makers of Candy Crush, a lot of other mobile games, $5.9 billion. They paid more for King than Disney paid for Star Wars.
Yeah.
Tencent bought Supercell for $8.6 billion. Then, of course, Microsoft, the story that we talked about last year, they bought ZeniMax for $7.5 billion. The Embracer Group bought Gearbox, makers of Borderlands, for $1.3 billion. Borderlands is worth as much as people would think, I guess.
Yeah.
And then even
Gearbox
recently,
also be, what do you call it? What's the game? Isn't that Gears of War? Is that Gearbox?
No, that's a Microsoft studio.
Yep.
I thought they were running on Gearbox. What the hell other game was it?
Nope. So the other thing that just happened 2 weeks ago was that Take-Two bought Zynga for $12.7 billion. So I just talked a lot about industry and mostly game-related acquisitions there. And even all those combined do not equal the $68.7 billion that Microsoft paid. Yeah. One of the cool things, it's super wild. So the whole thing is this isn't supposed to be, the ink isn't dry. The regulation is expected to be done, not official, until sometime fiscal year 2023. So sometime after March.
People don't realize just how long it takes to finalize an acquisition like that, you know? And so one of the things that they said, though, is that Bobby Kotick is going to remain the CEO until that ink is dry. So that's a whole other can of worms, because he's still he's still an asshole. He's still...
Yeah. But I mean,
also
Microsoft...
they did announce that he would be reporting to Phil Spencer, who we said is now the CEO of Xbox Gaming, or Microsoft Gaming. So that was going to be eventually him reporting to, Phil Spencer, which a lot of people take that as, well, that sounds like pretty much when he'll be let go. Because once the CEO becomes, reporting to another CEO, that kind of like makes, So that's kind of where we're at.
That, and it's too... Here's the thing. Microsoft can't do anything about Bobby Kotick right now because they technically don't own him yet.
Yep.
And the other thing, too, is as much as people want to see him gone now, typically, and I'm not an expert on this, but typically you can't make those kind of changes in the process of a buyout because the stock could change. Like if you got a beloved CEO that gets terminated for some reason, the stock could tank in that company, which lowers the valuation of the company being bought. Now, in this case, it probably increases the stock price.
That's exactly what I was about to say.
In this case, apparently, from what people have been saying, it's somewhat contractual. There's a reason why even the people internally haven't quite removed him yet. There's some kind of a payout mechanic that comes into removing him early that none of them wanted to do. But now with Microsoft buying them out, it won't matter because he's going to get all the money that he wants, and then he'll just disappear and hopefully fade into oblivion.
Yeah.
Well, not oblivion. That's also Microsoft's.
That's kind of a good thing to bring up because the thing is with Bobby Kotick, with his contract, if he's to leave, even after Microsoft gets him, he owns so much stock that essentially his payout would be close to $300 million.
Jesus.
So not only does he get away with covering up all the crap that he's covered up for many years now, but he's literally going to get paid for it. And again, there's not too much Microsoft can do about it. Now, apparently, though, that isn't the only option because the investors, not necessarily the controlling company, but the investors like the board of directors and other shareholders and investors can actually make changes to an executive's exit package. And there is a large investor, the SOC Investment Group, says that they'll press for any exit payments for Kotick to be tied to a civil rights audit of the company. Now, I don't know what that means.
Oh, that sounds fantastic, though.
But that might mean that Microsoft...
money. Yeah.
Well, right. And that Microsoft won't be incentivized to fight that all that much. They'll be like, yes, audit that original company. Yeah. Oh, yeah, they were terrible. Yes. And then they don't pay them. So that's even better for them.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, that's going to be interesting. But again, we're not going to know anything about that, if we ever know anything about that, until probably June 2023 at this point. So well over a year away.
Next year. It's already 2022. Isn't that wild?
To kind of compare and contrast between these two men, Phil Spencer, which every time I see him and everything that I've seen, it seems like such a nice guy. Now I don't know him personally, obviously, but
we were saying this earlier.
Yeah.
Even the Xbox documentary.
Yeah, I mean, even in the Nintendo documentary, he had a good part of that too. So I mean, he's all over the place. He's a known person in the gaming community that is well respected for many years.
Well, he
seems like a stand-up dude. Seems like him.
Being one of the top guys in being promoted into Microsoft Gaming, but one of the top guys in Xbox. In fact, so well loved in the Xbox portion of Microsoft that people called him the Xboss.
Yep. I love
not
that.
EX.
I love that.
Yeah. He wrote a lengthy letter. The Verge has a great copy of this letter if you want to go check it out, theverge.com. A lengthy letter. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it's a lengthy letter to all of the Microsoft gaming staff. And he's like, as players and partners, we all know how talented and dedicated the teams and the studios are across Activision Blizzard, the legendary games and franchise. He's talking about that stuff. He talks about when we expect the acquisition to be. He's talking about, Microsoft's committed on our journey for inclusion in every aspect of gaming among both employees and players. So he's directly addressing some of the concerns of how people have been treated at Activision Blizzard.
Handling things head on.
Right. And it's a lengthy message that he gives to these people. And there's another email that he does for another group as well. And
the one part I want to point out on that was like part of this, one of the things he says is, Microsoft's committed to our journey for inclusion in every aspect of gaming among both employees and players. We deeply value individual studio cultures. We also believe that creative success and autonomy go hand in hand with treating every person with dignity and respect. So we hold all teams, all leaders to this commitment. So that's like, boom, like any question, that's exactly what we're doing.
And we're looking forward to extending our culture of proactive inclusion to the great teams across Activision Blizzard. So he directly says that we want to make that place a better place to be. So great lengthy thing. So let's look what happened on the other side. That's right, because Bobby Kotick, of course, he had to talk to his people, because his company is.
Did he even really talk to them though?
Well, see, that's the thing. There was a 15-minute meeting.
15 minutes. 15 minutes. Here's
15-minute meeting that was planned. That he was late to.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it wasn't even 15 minutes that he was there.
Yeah.
It was a fireside chat. Took place over a video conference. Fielded questions that are said to be submitted by employees via email. So in one side, it's a video conference instead with questions from your employees as opposed to an email. Two completely different forums that we're talking about here.
Yes.
And could be, if handled the right way, a better forum for something like this. Except for the fact that the questions were highly selected and regulated. So when people had questions where they wanted to talk about, well, what are we doing about the strike that is ongoing and people are not getting paid? What are we going to do about discrimination? Those questions weren't brought up at all.
That rings a bell to me. God, I feel like I've heard that before.
I was just actually going to IMU.
Yes.
About yeah.
It's
sorry.
Rings a bell.
Personal conversations.
So, and Bobby Kotick said, I can tell you that my commitment to the company is to remain in my role. Once the deal closes, what I've committed to Microsoft is that I will stay as long as it is necessary to ensure that we have a great integration and a great transition. Which nobody wants him to be around.
No, nobody cares. Like he hasn't done anything great in the last year.
Right. Only he's done, he's personally done reprehensible things, write a tone-deaf email and say that it came from his chief, people officer, saying that she wrote it, and then when people didn't like it, saying that her email was tone-deaf. Yeah. Instead of admitting that he wrote it.
Like, oh, hold up, mother. You wrote that email, not me. Bye-bye.
Which she even kept to herself until she left months later, which was amazing. I mean, I'm not saying she's got her own problems. She's got her own problems, but that was amazing that she did that.
Yeah.
So, basically one person said, So he talked about he basically did his own spiel and said he likened Activision to be as important as his own children.
I wonder
and people
how he treats his own children.
felt like that he wasn't going to let go of this. There was no mention of the strike, the lawsuit, or any continuing issues. People were saying it may not have been a Q&A at all. We could have just read a press release and slept in an extra 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So this guy continues to show that he doesn't care and is a complete tool. I won't even say he's tone deaf. He probably understands. He probably just doesn't give a shit, which in some ways is worse. So yeah. That wasn't the only news. And I'll say the other news first, and then we're going to loop back around to just overall. The other thing that Phil Spencer announced was that Game Pass, between Xbox Game Pass and PC Game Pass, now has over 25 million subscribers. Which
is nuts.
Yeah, that's just amazing. Now that's, I don't know what the scope of that is. There's approximately 300 million people in the United States. And there's a good chunk of those 300 million that are just in the age group that for general purposes would not be interested in Game Pass at all. Not saying not all of them. We got some grandpas and grannies that go out there and game all the time.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Reported on them.
But to be honest, most of the 50 plus range doesn't care about Game Pass. You're not going to have any subscribers that are like pretty much 15 and under. They might have their parents' subscription, but that's still a good chunk of this 300 million that we're taking out. And then that makes that 25 million of the remaining just look like a bigger and bigger number. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah. Well, at this point, it's kind of crazy to think about what's included. And by the way, in no means are we sponsored by Microsoft. No means are we getting paid to say this.
No.
We've talked about it plenty of times before that, we all have Xbox Game Pass because it is a subscription and we do get to play a lot of different games that way. But there's so much on this in this catalog now. So when they added initially EA came to the table and you could play all these EA games that you couldn't have access to before, which not saying the newest ones you can play full versions, you can play up to like 10 hours, something like that. But it's still a good chunk if you want to check it out and actually enjoy it. But then after that, the ZeniMax, and it was like, oh my god, now we can play every Skyrim or every Elder Scrolls game or every Fallout game or any of these things. And it's like, wow, I was already impressed with what we have, and now we're talking about.
Well, and that's not even counting all the id and the other.
Yeah.
The other studios, like the studio that did the Wolfenstein reboot.
Mm-hmm. So having all of that, and then you add in now thinking Activision. So we're talking about, Call of Duty. We're talking now with adding in, we call it Blizzard. We have Diablo, Overwatch, WoW. I don't know how they're going to do WoW. Is that going to be part of our subscription now? How is that going to work?
That's a big question. I
think it probably could get incorporated. What's interesting is Game Pass is still a loss to Microsoft as of the last report that they had released. Game Pass doesn't make them money. They want it to, but it doesn't yet. It hasn't reached critical mass. I think what they're hoping is with this Activision Blizzard deal is that they can finally push it over the edge. But in order to do that, they're going to need to put pretty much everything from Activision Blizzard on Game Pass. In my opinion.
And that's the thing. People were reading on the Reddit that they're hoping that maybe they'll get the Diablo mobile game so they can play it.
I want to play Diablo Immortal, but it's not out yet because Blizzard has pretty much been shut down for the last year.
Yeah.
The other interesting thing here is that think about it this way: we've named off a lot of the recent stuff. And I've included the Diablos in that. Activision owns a lot of IP that has not been touched for a long time. Geometry Wars.
Oh my God! Please redo that.
Geometry Wars is an Activision game.
Just put it on the pass, and I'll play it all day. It's fine.
Guitar Hero, DJ Hero.
That'll be interesting.
Hexen from a way back when, which was a great game built on like the Doom engine, the Quake engine. I think it was Quake engine. I mean, let me put it this way. Activision was essentially the first third-party game developer. They made games for the Atari 2600.
Right.
They were pretty much the first company to develop a game.
Such a big purchase.
Third party for a console. So they have this catalog.
Blizzard.
Yeah.
The reason why it's a big
catalog goes all the way back.
It is for the main product lines that they have. Those old games, I mean, as much as I'm sure a lot of people want to see them come back to life, Microsoft doesn't care about those old games. They might bring back like one or two of the hundreds in that catalog. But what they really want is they want the games that generate a stupid amount of revenue, bring in a ridiculous amount of player base, and moreover, based on their own wording, are easy to incorporate into the upcoming metaverse. That's what they're interested in.
Yeah.
Well, yes and no, because they've always been a champion on letting their studios build, like, yes, they definitely want to make some money and they're not going to be opposed for that, but they've also let their studios work on smaller format games. They've been big on that in the past, and I'm not saying they're going to bring back all these games.
Metaverse is where the money is going to be at.
Well, especially when you have all that IP.
Yeah.
I mean, Space Quest, Police Quest, Soldier of Fortune,
Police Quest, they own that because that was under Sierra back in the day.
Right. They own Sierra.
Do they? I thought that was owned by somebody else.
Activision owned Sierra.
No, I thought they went to Valve. I thought they were owned by Valve.
No. Activision owned Sierra. They have all those Police Quest, Space Quest. They have Spyro the Dragon.
Yeah, I heard that one.
Phantasmagoria.
I can see that being something they bring back for another game, but I don't think
or like you said,
titles that have been dead for a long time are going to come back.
You never know, because again, you got the concept of the metaverse, because that's one of the concepts of the metaverse, is that you're bringing in these fans, and kind of like Fortnite with bringing in IP and people make some assets that go into the metaverse for these old IPs, and people could start to snap some of that stuff up.
That's specifically the thing, is when you think metaverse, most of the people, even my age and up, are like, the metaverse is kind of stupid. Why would we do the metaverse? But people who are in their teens right now think the metaverse is like this really cool thing, and they're super intrigued by it.
Because they haven't became adults yet and had to pay bills. That's why they think everything is a
because
joke.
the metaverse is kind of it's almost a little bit too new agey for most people to swallow. They're like, that's kind of stupid. Like, we don't want to go into some stupid virtual world. We want to play games the way that we grew up playing games. But like the younger generation now, they're like, nah, I totally want to go hang out with people inside of this like metaverse thing. Like, that sounds fucking awesome to me. But
during COVID,
those kids, they don't know Geometry Wars, but they know
that doesn't matter.
They know
Fortnite's proved that doesn't matter.
I was going to say
how many people in Fortnite, these kids think that, like, oh my God, Microsoft ripped off Master Chief from Fortnite, and they say shit like that all the time with the IP that they've.
That's a small minority. You're definitely. I feel like you're definitely nitpicking there. That's definitely a small minority that say stupid shit like that. Most kids and teens nowadays know exactly who Master Chief is. I mean, Fortnite.
Master Chief is not the best example,
I'm talking about obscure things, right? Like we're talking about Geometry Wars, and you're talking about Master Chief. Master Chief again is not obscure. That's like a very mainstream thing within the last decade, even with just the new Halo game. The Marvel studio, all of those characters, obviously mainstream. Most of what's in Fortnite is mainstream. And that, I think, is exactly because Epic Games has announced their interjection into the metaverse, which means Microsoft wants the same staying power, but they can't use a lot of the stuff that Epic Games is already using because they already have contracts with all these different things like the MCU. But what they can use is the entire Activision Blizzard IP now, specifically all of the most popular aspects of it. Things that are still relevant today, like Overwatch, World of Warcraft, Diablo, which is still coming out with new games, and so forth. So
yeah, but I still say if you're talking about visuals and IP and bling and all that stuff, it doesn't have to be something that's relevant today. They can introduce it, and the kids, if they like the look of it, then they pick it up. They don't care.
Let's talk about this. Let's talk about this. The fact that you mentioned Spyro, which, so if anybody's familiar with Spyro the Dragon, it was a PS1 release, right? So this was on Sony's PlayStation 1. Also, Crash Bandicoot, which is like the staple for PlayStation, which is a Sony product, and now owned by Activision, now owned by Microsoft. So how wild is that to see actual, staples here that are not even a part of that anymore? Like, it's pretty crazy.
And those are still relevant because they've kept those projects alive throughout the years.
True.
To some
Tony Hawk, Tony Hawk series.
They just re-released.
They bring back Tenchu.
They just recently, I think, re-released the Spyro, like a remastered Spyro version, and the Crash Bandicoot Insane trilogy, which
Heretic. Oh my god.
Were kind of okay received overall.
So for somebody like me, so I've got an Xbox, I've got a PC. That's where in an iPhone. That's where I'm gaming, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm a mom. I only have so much time. I only have so many games I can play. There are games I have on Steam that are on my list to play, and I'm like, I can't keep buying a whole bunch of games. So either I really like it and it's on Steam, somebody has gifted it to me and I know it's going to be great because they gifted it to me, or
terrible because they gifted it to you,
or that. Yeah, and I'm gonna I've already got this massive library of things on Xbox that I can play. And so anytime I go to Steam now, I'm like, hold on, is this available through my Game Pass? And I can save myself some money. But I have so many games right now. The last thing I'm going to do is buy another game. I'm not going to buy another console. And so for Xbox to be now buying Activision Blizzard, and adding on to that, I don't have any reason to go anywhere else unless it's going to be
you're the perfect
most
customer.
Amazing game ever. Yeah. And this is how Game Pass is going to continue. It will actually eventually start making money for Xbox.
You're the perfect customer on so many levels because A, you don't want to be bothered because you ain't got the time. Nope. You have a library of things you can just choose from to play whenever you want. You don't need to buy another console because the Xbox Series S can sit there and connect to the Xbox cloud platform, and you can play them there. And B, most importantly, I know I'm at number 4 and I said B, but most importantly, you're a person that has some level of disposable income that will set up this subscription and forget about it for big chunks of time. So they get your money without having to provide you a service.
Even when I'm not using it.
I mean, thinking about the original, right, which is Netflix. Like, think about Netflix. They used to send out DVDs, and then people were like burning them, and they would cancel whatever. And then they got to the point where like, well, what if we could just do this online? You could just stream this stuff to your TV. And think about how many people do the same thing. It's the same point you just hit. The convenience, the fact that like I have a whole library of things that I can watch. So I'll go check Netflix, see if it's on there, or I'll maybe find another movie that's like it. You know, and then I'll keep going, and then I'll set it and forget it. I'll put it on there, and I'll take out. It used to be $5 a month. Now it's like probably like 11 or 12, $15 a month, and it's the same process. And it's people like you and me and us and all of us that just do this because it makes a lot of sense because it's convenient. And it's like, and the problems to the downside of this with me personally, and actually I think all of us because of SaaS, but it's literally that I don't finish games. Which Actually, I did finish one game. We'll talk about it after the break. But I haven't finished a game in I don't know how many weeks, months, years at this point. Just because like I always it's that I play a game and then the next thing I know I can go play another one because it's not like back in the day when we had Blockbuster where I had to like physically wait till the weekend. My mom and dad to take me to the store to like walk in and try to pick a game. That hopefully was in stock because it probably was already rented because it's already Friday afternoon, not like Friday morning.
It's 7 o'clock at night, and you're I hated that.
So like those, and it's a double-edged sword because those things are great, like having that time to that feeling of going to the store and being able to pick a game, but at the same time like getting there and it's not available, or you get like in the PlayStation days where you'd get a disc and it's all scratched up. So you get home and try to play it and you can't play it and you got to return it and they don't have it. And you're just like, SOL. To now where I could just literally pick up whatever game I want, put it down and play another one. Like it doesn't matter. So it's a different world that obviously we live in. And going into this further with the metaverse, right? Like this whole conversation of what this is going to be like. I mean, it's the same thing. We're going to eventually, like, Bruno's saying, we're at a point now where we probably think it's kind of stupid and far-fetched, but eventually, kids a lot of people back in the day said video games were far-fetched and nobody's going to play video games. That's stupid. Look at Nintendo, almost went out of business, had to reconstruct their whole model around, hey, we're going to sell you a robot and it comes with the console, but don't worry about the console. It's just a robot. The robot's the cool part. Robbie the robot, that's what you need to buy. And then it's like, and then all of a sudden now here comes consoles again. So it's like, it's the same thing, it's a vicious cycle we keep going through, but it's, Microsoft's trying to get out in front of this, which is good. And obviously great for us who are subscribers, but it's interesting to see where this will go, especially like what Bruno mentioned with the titles that we do have that they're trying to push for like Metaverse, because these are games that are kind of like a Metaverse in a sense. Like WoW has a huge community that everybody's been sucked into for years and years and years. But we're talking about moving it to like, more of a virtual space where everything is like you really are your character, And then further on, Snow Crash, Ready Player One, all that feature stuff past that. So it's just interesting.
Well, it ends up we didn't have to wait too long to find out where some of this is going. Because after the announcement, Sony's stock dropped by approximately 13%. Oof. Now, 13% doesn't sound like too much, except for when you're a company valued as much as Sony. That equated to a $20 billion drop in their company's evaluation. Good time to buy Sony.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. It's crazy because when you're talking about all these IPs, like I literally said Crash Bandicoot and Spyro. Like you're saying Sony, your flagship, like Crash Bandicoot was like the icon of PlayStation for years. To now saying like, oh, you guys don't even own that anymore? What? Like that's crazy.
To be clear, actually, Microsoft's stock in the last 5 days dropped 7%. Sony's is currently down 9%, 10%. So this isn't like a Sony was severely damaged by this.
Oh,
it's
no.
like almost an expected thing. A massive $70 billion purchase of one of the largest companies in the gaming industry happens. Everybody's stock in the game industry drops. Microsoft goes down because you guys are buying one of the worst viewed companies in the world, and you just spent $70 billion of money you didn't technically have
69.
as Microsoft Gaming. You essentially borrowed it from Microsoft parent company, which must have been a very interesting story. I can only imagine Phil Spencer walking into Sammy's office and being like, I need 69 billion dollars in just straight up cash to buy this one company, and him being like, well, we only have 120 billion on hand, and you're asking me for more than half of all of our company's liquidated money for a game company. And him being like, all right, well, I guess, sure, go ahead, buy your game company. But you know what's really interesting is when I was reading through this, Microsoft themselves said in their release letter about buying Activision that this makes them the third largest gaming company in the world, only behind two companies. The second being Sony, who is still larger than them by a fairly large margin. and the top one being Tencent, who obviously own some of the largest product lines in existence, like some of the most popular games out there. Obviously, PlayStation has so many like really insane studios who create like
and partially own
very
and partially own a bunch of others. Yeah.
So it's interesting to me to see where everything sits now, and more so one of the things that I've been focusing on is the MMO market, because Sony's removed from it for most degree, right? So like now World of Warcraft is under there. Elder Scrolls Online are both under the same parent company, or will be, leaving Square Enix with Final Fantasy 14 as the odd one out, being the largest MMO in the world. But the interesting part is that Tencent, owners of Riot Games, are preparing to release what is going to be the most expensive MMORPG ever created, with Riot Games' new MMO that's supposed to release sometime, suspected to be 2025. But like, at the end of the day, the changes in stock really mean nothing for the time being. I think the biggest thing is going to be in July of 2023. What happens then when it is finalized and we see Activision Blizzard formally go under the Microsoft umbrella? Where does everything sit? Which, according to Microsoft, they expect that they'll sit firmly in third place with that purchase.
And until we hear July of 2023 that Microsoft acquires Tencent, and then we all explode.
Tencent, I mean, that'd be hilarious, except that it would never happen, because regulators would be like, you're now a monopoly, so we're going to tear you apart and send pieces to the 7 corners of the world. Goodbye.
Yeah, exactly. Which is surprisingly, like, that hasn't already kind of been a talking point.
That is a thing that they're discussing. The regulators are looking at Blizzard and seeing, like, can this acquisition feasibly happen under these conditions?
Yeah. That's part of why it's going to take so long, right? There are other departments that have to take a very deep dive and say, is this kosher? Are we going to allow this? So
it'll be interesting to see. I mean, I hope it succeeds, because I think Blizzard's lost its way. And I think that the only chance that we have for a decent Diablo 4 and a possible future for World of Warcraft is through another company owning them.
Well, imagine that. You can have like Obsidian, like, working with like Diablo and like doing all of these crazy mashups now in-house because of all these different studios that all work together. Like, what if they actually just put the axe on WoW and ESO, and they come up with a new MMO that's like WoW ESO 2?
I mean, that'd be hilarious, except I said that I'd never see.
That would work.
I said that Activision Blizzard would never be purchased by Microsoft because it's too volatile, and they did it anyways. So, I guess never say never, so to speak, but like, those games make so much money. And a lot of people think it's the subscriptions that make them a lot of money. But when you look at the microtransactions within those games, the amount of money they make is astounding. And realistically, the crazy money makers out of Activision Blizzard are repurchasings of Call of Duty, microtransactions in World of Warcraft, Hearthstone, and Overwatch. Candy Crush makes a stupid amount of money.
Oh god!
Talking about like
they have been.
Like when you look at the new model now, like the microtransactions is where like most of Activision's Blizzard money like routes in from, and with the reselling of expansions time and time again. So,
well, and that's kind of similar to Game Pass, because Game Pass is a loss leader, but getting you into the infrastructure where you can start then purchasing microtransactions and stuff like that is where one of the other methods that they're going to do to turn it around and make a profit from it.
Yeah.
So. I'm curious about a lot of things they're going to shake out now. Like, what is Sony going to do? Like, Sony is obviously not threatened, other than the fact that they're like, are they going to take Call of are Activision Blizzard titles no longer going to be released? Which they're saying the same thing that they said about Bethesda when Bethesda was purchased.
That's actually one thing that they talked about. That's part of why we think Sony Sony did make a statement about, we believe that Microsoft will, uphold the contracts as is, but like, what does that mean? You know, we don't know what those contracts actually say. And Sony or Microsoft bought another company. God, forgive me. It's an obvious.
But the Deathloop thing. Like,
yeah, Deathloop, and that's still a Sony exclusive. So,
that's from the ZeniMax, and also Ghostwire Tokyo is another PS5 console exclusive. That's the important thing there because they can sell it on PC. Which is what they did with Deathloop. And that's because a lot of people are going to be like, okay, what's going to happen with Call of Duty? Are they going to keep it multi-platform or not? And we're not going to know the answer until then. We don't know what contracts that Sony had with Activision, whether there was a contract that said, hey, we're going to contribute X amount to Activision as long as you keep making sure that Call of Duty is multi-platform for X number of years. There can be contracts out there like, Tony Hawk had a 20-year contract or something stupid with Activision until it just recently, wound down, which, by the way, that's another franchise that Microsoft now has is the Tony Hawk franchise.
Yep.
That's crazy.
But I think Sony...
New game, let's go.
Yeah, I think Sony made their comment as they did because very much not necessarily in reaction to the stock dip, because like Bruno said, that was something that was going to be expected anyway, but just saying, hey, we're just letting everybody know, especially our stockholders out there, hey, Microsoft better keep to their contracts that we have. And Microsoft will. There's no reason for them to mess with that.
Yeah, I mean, they're not and we've said that before, Microsoft's in the software business. They're just trying to make as much money that way than they can. And they're doing that. Sony's still making actual games. It says, James Sucks in the chat says is hashtag can't make good games, buy them. Because that is the model that Microsoft's after right now is just, buying and making software that people can pay money for.
To be fair, Sony's done similar. Not all of the big Sony games that have come out recently were, Sony studio. They were studios that they had acquired.
The push has definitely been for Microsoft for the software side.
To be fair, when's the last time that Activision Blizzard actually released a new game? That was good.
Yeah.
That was
Overwatch when it originally came out.
When you select that filter, it's like
the Call of Duty Modern Warfare remake was apparently pretty decent, or one of those. There was a Call of Duty 3 years ago that was
the best thing they've released in the last 5 years was a remake of the last game that was good from that series.
Yeah.
Right, pretty much. That's my understanding.
Well, between Treyarch and Infinity Ward, those two back and back, it just those were always great. But yeah,
I think they're hoping to get a lot of mileage out of those projects if they can get them going in the right direction, similar to how they bought Bethesda for cheaper than everybody thought Bethesda would even go for, because they were kind of in a little bit of a downward trend with their fan base, and they were like, oh yeah, we can pick up both these companies for cheaper than what we would have a year ago. Yeah, so you take those and you hope that you can do something with it, and we're gonna see just how good they can do with it, seeing as I think it's, what's it called again? How's my brain forgetting the name of this game?
Now you got me.
Starseed? Starfall?
Yeah.
You got me thinking about it.
My brain.
Oh my God. Why is this? Why are we?
I don't know, man. It just Starfield. Yeah.
Yep.
It'll be interesting what happens with Starfield, because that game was supposed to be expected a little bit later than it's coming, and now it's coming this year. So it'll be interesting to see exactly how much they've done out of it. Also, the Elder Scrolls Online and the Shivering Isles expansion that I'm not even sure has been fully announced yet, just teased. But that also has had a lot of work time done underneath the Microsoft umbrella, and is still being worked underneath the Microsoft umbrella. So
and we still have the tease for ES6, so we'll see if that ever shows back up on the radar for a while.
Another thing that I'm using as a benchmark is, will Microsoft let another Skyrim edition come out? Skyrim Anniversary Edition came out, but that was in the works pre-merger. So that was a done deal. It wasn't like Microsoft was going to step in and be like, all right, you guys have put all this work this half-assed work into re-releasing the same product, and we're gonna stop you. They're like, "I just do it because you guys are already planning on it." But I'm curious to see if they're gonna let them do it again, because it's such a bad. It's such a practice that I'm annoyed by. And both companies they bought are super guilty of it. Super guilty. Like Blizzard, like Bethesda re-releasing their old games, and now you have Blizzard who's like, do you guys like World of Warcraft retail, but you're getting tired of it? What about World of Warcraft Classic? Go back to your childhood. And everybody was like, that's so awesome. And everybody went to play that. And then months later, people were like, I think I realized why we stopped playing that when we wanted the updates. Because we got older and we couldn't play shit like that anymore. And they were like, hey, you guys liked Warcraft 3? What about Warcraft 3 Reforged with no effort put into it? And everyone's like, but why? Like, this sucks. What did you do? Stop re-releasing these games. And then they announced Overwatch 2, which is just Overwatch 1 with a single player mode on the same engine with all the same art. And I hope that doesn't happen anymore. I hope that doesn't happen anymore.
Well, ultimately, we're not the ones that are going to decide this information. Obviously, this are headlines you can find all over any website at this point.
Yeah.
Well, he's calling it here now. So, but that is. So anyway, that's the news for today. Take a few minutes, go grab a drink, and we'll be back after this word from our sponsor. And we're back with what we've been playing.
Awesome. Well, call me for game of the moment.
He wasn't quick enough to hit the button again. You're supposed to hit the music for what we've been playing. I was seeing if you were, I was testing you.
For game of the moment, we played. Oh my gosh.
All right.
Are we sure that we're done?
I think listen, bitch, I was on point for every other fucking one of them. You just like manage the cameras and the fucking sounds all at the same time.
I think we should talk about the shorts now. Short news. Short news.
Yeah, short news. Let's go back to shorts.
We should just start all over again, actually. So in news today, Microsoft buys Activision Blizzard for $68.7 billion, not $69.
And now for Mikey's Corner.
So for game of the moment, we played Monster Hunter Rise.
Oh man.
Perfect.
Okay.
Bruno's like, man, this is like my second episode back, and I'm just trying to get the game at the moment done, but y'all
do we have a Canadian sounding one? Is that a thing? Can we play like
can we
moose
ducks quacking and like maple syrup pouring?
No. It just has to be like a Canadian song. So I don't know, like play like
Celine Dion.
Yeah, play Celine or Justin Bieber or Drake.
What?
Oh,
no way.
Mike's Corner has 69.
Go look things up, Mike.
But
Peanut Butter Mongoose. Hey, buddy.
Our game of the moment was Monster Hunter Rise, which is a game about hunting monsters, as we described on the game of the moment, which you can go and watch.
Which is where you can first see Bruno in his hairless face.
Yeah, in my beardless form. Yeah, I mean, I've been playing a lot of Monster Hunter. I think I've played, 40-something hours of it. It's great. It's a game where the entire loop is you gear up, you go kill a monster to get more pieces from it so that you can build gear made out of it to go and kill more monsters like it or others. And that's the loop. I just explained Monster Hunter.
Yes.
In like 2 sentences. Which makes it sound almost kind of really boring depending on the kind of person you are, or extremely entertaining depending on the kind of person you are. So, it's up to you.
I do want to say, as somebody who had, like I said, I'm a mom. I'm a job right now.
I'm a mom.
I don't. Yeah, like so. The game Monster Hunter. I had lover of Halloween. I had a very different preconceived notion of what the game was going to be about, and it was like monsters. and it was not like I expected. There were bipedal
honey badgers.
yeah, honey badgers. So like
Oh my god! What she thought this was Dead by Daylight. That's super funny.
But I will point out that you did not see any of the weird looking ones.
Yeah, okay.
You saw birds, and the weirdest or the meanest looking one you saw was the giant, like cat-like
boulder
monster
guy.
that. Oh, you did see the boulder guy, but I think the cat dude who spawned like the purple fire out of his entire body and grew giant bone spikes out of everywhere.
Oh yeah,
that guy was.
There's some in there that are like. There's the one that we saw his weapon, and it looked like it looked like something, like an item that you could buy in real life.
For that time of the month.
Product,
I'm not even going there.
But, which was worse because it was even pink.
Yeah.
Like that monster looks like something out of somebody's nightmare. It is a giant, hairless, fleshy monster with an extending phallic neck and a rounded head that has no eyes and teeth like one of the things from Tremors.
Not okay.
Yeah, no, it's not exactly the prettiest thing. Then there's one that's like
his expression during this whole description because he wasn't.
That's like
for the listeners, he was not there for this game at the moment, so he did not. And we didn't see this creature either. We only saw the kind of watercolored, like stylized painting that is in the game in your kind of codex type thing. But boy, that was enough.
Yeah, no. And like, there's a lot of monsters that are really weird looking like that. Not that type of weird looking, but kind of spooky looking. There's one that's like a siren, but it's actually just a heinous looking fish woman that flops around on the floor very violently and tries to murder you by putting you to sleep and then smashing her entire body into you repeatedly. So
Mike's making those faces again.
It's kind of
like
hot.
Me at the pool. So,
well done.
Whatever.
But yeah, that
nice.
was Monster Hunter. Great times. Yeah. And then
it was a cool game.
Yeah, it was a really good. It's a really good game. Having a lot of fun with it. Yeah. And then another game that I go back to every once in a while that I played this week, starting yesterday, was Diablo 3. Because some people from work were like, "We're playing it. You should come and play." I mean, I can describe Diablo 3, but really, like, I feel like everybody knows what it is at this point. It's an action RPG, like dungeon crawly kind of game where you make crazy builds and you just delete monsters over and over again. It's another grind.
I think that's the important part is people at work said, "Hey, why don't you come play Diablo 3 with us?" And they probably just didn't understand the levels that you play a game at.
You know what's wild is I got into the game with these guys and they were all like Paragon level, like 1400 plus. All of them this season, as in they just started 5 weeks ago and they're Paragon level 1400, Greater Rift level like 130 something. So I was like, oh my, they're like me. This is exciting.
Okay, so we're talking about games in general, games we're playing, but we're also talking about games in general, and I cannot pass up what I just saw in chat, which was the suggestion that Daydrinker play a Persona game, which, by the way, is actually a spin-off of itself. It's a spin-off of Shin Megami Tensei.
Yeah.
Sorry, I stumbled all over that.
That's fine. Weird one.
And is like, and Daydrinker said, "I'm in.
I'll do it. I'm up for anything. Totally in.
I would pay money because you can't pussyfoot around with this and play it for like the first hour or two. Like, it's almost like a Final Fantasy in such that the first 4 to 5 hours is your tutorial.
Oh, well, this might take a minute.
And
we'll have plenty of wine.
Yeah, I mean,
so
Are you gonna take care of the kids? Like
this might need to happen
put our kids together,
because
they can take care of each other.
yeah,
like
that's true. They've got each other. They'll be fine.
Yeah.
They'll be totally fine.
just for Mike's reaction when you show him the game and stuff for how anime this game is.
I've seen screenshots.
No, the screenshots is not the important thing. It's the situations. I won't go into it because it will be gold when it happens. And as James Suck says, Persona 4 Golden is on Steam. So I think somebody's gonna get something gifted to them pretty soon because I'm behind this. This has to happen. Like there needs to be like a couple. I will sit there and record it just so that I can like mark time codes and just pull out the stuff where you're just going, what the hell just happened?
What the?
And just put up like 3 or 5 minute videos just of Day Drinker going nuts and then her showing Zycia and Zycia just making that face that he makes when it gets too anime for him.
Which face is that?
Listen, I'm like you can't see your face, so I mean, I don't know what to tell you.
You don't know what you do.
This is a true statement. Anyway, so that was a nice segue. Thank you very much. This is we're gonna have to do that. I've been playing Tiny Tina's Assault on Dragon Keep, which is the Tiny Tina being a character in Borderlands 2.
When I saw Tiny initially, I was like, oh, and I was like, no. Oh, I know Tiny Tina.
Well, I mean, Tiny Tina is tiny herself.
Yeah.
This is not the new one. This is the one that was, I believe, based on Borderlands 2. There is a newer one that they're coming out. I think it's Tiny Tina's Wonderlands is coming out. And it's going to be like $60. That's a new game coming out based on the Borderlands 3 engine. It's Borderlands set in a like idea of an RPG. So it's kind of silly, kind of crazy because it's they're all you're actually the characters are playing the role-playing game and making commentary while you're playing the game. So it is entertaining. And the fact that you're just still shooting Borderlands guns makes it even crazier. And there isn't too much in the way of like problem solving or puzzles or role playing. You're just in there shooting. So if you like Borderlands, it's kind of fun. If you don't like Borderlands, it's just more of the same. So you're not going to get too much more out of it. I'll catch up on the hilarity in chat here in a moment. One thing that I actually wanted to play before I picked up Tiny Tina's Assault on Dragon Keep was Watch Dogs Legion. But I'm not playing that because it was available through Epic Game Store. But for whatever reason, it couldn't connect to the Ubisoft servers. So I couldn't play this single player game because it couldn't connect online. I'll try again later, maybe.
Good God.
So I have been playing The Room,
Yes,
Pocket Edition. So I've been on a little bit of a gaming hiatus through no fault of my own. I had kids home from school, and then they extended that stay-at-home thing. And just as they did, my husband got COVID, and then I was like, what? No. Like, we blocked everything up. Me and my kids didn't get COVID, thank God.
I'm good for SAS memes, by the way, right there.
What?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so it was my kids did not go back to school until this Tuesday. This Tuesday, when I had to find somebody in the city or in the metropolitan Atlanta area to get my kids COVID tested so that they could go back to school. It was an entire month.
I don't understand the problem. So you had a vacation after your vacation with your children. That's great. That sounds like a lot of like great times with your family.
Mike, I hope you understand.
Oh, he will.
Hell, that is virtual school. I pray. And
I hope I never have to experience that.
Oh, sweet leaping Jesus.
That'd be funny though if they do that for me. They're like, "Oh, we're going to do virtual daycare."
There you go.
Yeah, set up the laptop. They'll just let them run around together in the room. It'll be fine.
We got this covered. We got
just make sure you strap it down.
Yeah. So I've been on kind of a holdback, and because I've got one kid in one room, one kid literally here, doing virtual school, and having to bounce back and forth to make sure they're paying attention. They've got everything they need. They're not slumping down their chair. Like, I could do some crazy TikToks about the shit that I've seen.
Did I send you the video? Did I send you guys the video of the Yeah, I think I did. It was like, it seemed to be like an interview over Zoom or something.
Yes.
And it was,
I think it was an interview too.
Yeah, it had to be an interview. But it was like basically two gentlemen and a lady. And they're sitting, and it's like,
yes.
Like one guy, like I think the gentleman on the left and the lady on the left, they were both, I think the interviewees or interviewers, and then the interviewee was on the top right, and he's sitting there, and they're all, in suits and stuff, like, and he's talking to and like his little kid like comes in the background and starts like doing jumping jacks or something.
Candidate's kid comes back there, is like going like this behind him.
He's like, oh my God. He's like, get out. He's like, sorry, give me 1 second. And he stands up and he walks over to like lock the kid out of the door. But when he does that, he forgets that he's actually wearing just a suit top and just wearing like gym shorts underneath.
Yeah.
So he's like, he gets back to the computer, and the guy who's doing the interview is like, hey, whatever your name is, he's like, hey, great shorts you got there. And he's just like, oh my
mortified.
God. I am like,
totally
imagine
mortified.
that. Like, your child just destroyed your interview, and now you weren't even wearing actual pants. And like, the guy says, hey, no problem. And he gets up. He's like, let me go grab something. He gets up and he walks to the back of the room.
He opens his door and looks out the closet.
He's also got these in just shorts.
Bright baby blue gym shorts on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
It was perfect. It was great. Yeah. But it was just, and they all kind of laughed about it afterwards. It was just like how genuine of a moment for humans. Like, that was just fun.
What a great way to like diffuse the embarrassment that your candidate's going through.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It just like totally levels everything right back again.
Yeah.
Settles someone
down. So how was that game?
So I
we were talking about games, weren't we?
My husband finally got off of quarantine isolation, still didn't know the difference, in our house on like Sunday or Monday. And I was like, Mike told me about this game and I downloaded it and now I'm going to play. So I've literally played just a little bit. It's fantastic. It's a great puzzle game. It's like a mystery. You have to put things together, and it's puzzling. Sorry, wine. So there's little things that you need to see. This is
this is like going to a bad territory again all of a sudden.
I'm just trying not to give too much away. So,
so describe. Well, first of all, we kind of got sidetracked there, and I know Kelly said the name of the game, but I'll remind everybody we're talking about The Room Pocket Edition.
The Room, not the box. Yes, The Room Pocket Edition from my iPhone. You can get The Room on Steam, but that's all I had at the time. And so the intro is, there's a big box sitting on a table, and there's some stuff on top of this box, and you need to find a way to get into this box. There you go. Yes.
Nice reflection of Discord.
Mm-hmm. So Mike's got the Pocket Edition too, And you don't have to like get to a point and save, which is great for somebody who wants to be playing something on their phone in the little bit of time that they have between
waiting for a doctor's appointment.
Yeah, exactly. So
going home within the Uber.
Highly recommend. I'm still playing. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Oh, that's what I'm going to do. Now that I can venture back out into the world. Highly recommend so far. I will let you know when I actually finish the game, but it is right up my alley. As I see it, fantastic suggestion. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem. I was like, when I remembered that one, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I didn't. For one, you didn't know about this, and two, I didn't already tell you. So it's great. I'm glad you're having a good time with it. So moving on to me, I played 2 games, and I'll tell you right now, the one that I'm about to talk about is not the one that I finished. So we'll move on. So this game is called 2 Point Hospital. We kind of covered this in a article, I don't know, months ago. But essentially, it's a simulator for running a hospital, like a project, what do you call it, a facility management type of game. You're presented with a hospital. You have to build out different wards and watch money and do all these things. That sounds like a lot of work for most people, which it is. But for some reason, I'm really into those type of games. I don't know why. It's just strange addiction that I have. So what's kind of neat, though, is very like not realistic in the sense of the type of characters. Like the conditions that people have is like one person had like POTS syndrome. And it's basically he had like a metal pot on top of his head and he couldn't get it off. And they had to put him inside a pot remover. And it shakes him, it grabs him by the head and shakes him until the pot comes off his head. And there's one for like clowns, and it's like a clown diffuser. And the clowns have to go in there, and then it like sprays stuff on them, and they become normal again. So it's just like these weird little like things you can do. But it was like, and then the second mission was like they were all thinking that they're rock stars. So they all come in and they all look like Freddie Mercury. They're all dressed in like a yellow like suit, and then like they'll take a break and they'll like kind of dance, and they'll have like their microphone and they'll like swing. And then when you go in, they get what do you call it, diagnosed, and they get resolved or whatever.
Did they have mercury poisoning?
No, they just thought they were.
That's good.
They were,
Okay, because you said POT syndrome. I think POT, it's an actual.
Well, they were
thing,
all
right?
mock stars, not rock stars.
Oh,
so it's like
okay.
these guys are a little crazy, but really they think they're famous, but they're really just a little gaga, is what it said.
Oh, wow!
So it's really fun like that. And so far, like basically playing as soon as you start the game, you're kind of going to like story campaign mode where. The first one you jump into a hospital, it's already kind of built. You're kind of just setting some things up. Then you go to the next hospital, a little bit less, try to set some things up until you finally get to the point where it's like the hospital's completely open and you have to just make everything happen. So it's pretty neat. It's a pretty, like I said, fun game in the sense of like character wise and the symptoms and stuff. But at the same time, it is a like simulator type game where you're literally doing work, like you're watching money and numbers and trying to. Yeah. I don't know. I'm a strange person. So that is that. Having a good time with that. It's been fun. Inscryption. Let's circle back to last week, week before Game of the Moment, where Brian played this game called Inscryption that he hated.
Oh, I'm
a terrible time.
So glad you're circling back.
Right. But spoilers, if you haven't, actually, Bruno, have you completed this game yet?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So spoilers, if you haven't completed Inscryption and you're wanting to, fast forward through this portion because I'm going to talk about, not everything, but talk about a lot of it. So after watching Phoenix's stream, I was like, I'm kind of intrigued. I'm not a huge card game guy. Like I've played a few of them, but I'm not like super into it. But the parts that really kind of got me on his stream was that there was other parts of this mystery. Like it was kind of dark, kind of seemed sort of scary, but not really. And there was like some creepiness to it. So it's kind of interesting. So I wanted to check it out. And man, I'm so glad that I did. So coming back to what I said was a game that I actually completed. This is the first game that I can think of in the last year and a half. And correct me if I'm wrong, anybody that's played with me and I've beat a game with you, that I think that I've completed, if not more than that. So
Never heard of you beating a game
yeah, and that's been So I literally finished this game, and I cannot believe I saw the credits. It was a euphoric moment. But I'll say the reason why. Hey, man,
almost every game during Shocktober you completed.
Good call. Very
games
good
that I like.
call.
Well, okay. He's never finished a game of his own accord. The only thing I've ever seen Mike finish of his own will is a drink.
Hey, damn straight. So this game has a lot more to it than just to the stream that actually Phoenix did. So if you did watch that and you're like, I don't know if I want to pick this up, that is not the game. Like that is one part, a quarter of the game. Which I say that ultimately the game is a card like deck building game. Like that mechanic is throughout the game. Doesn't matter what happens, that part is still going to be inside the game.
I'm out. I'm totally out.
But everything else with it is what made it so much more unique and so much fun for me. So after you complete the first person, just like you basically played with Phoenix, you almost go into like Super Mario World. Like so there's like a little break, and then it shows a bunch of YouTube videos, almost kind of like that game I talked about. Next Space Rebels, where it's like seems like YouTube. So you like click a video and it's like kind of like a story behind it, and you're like seeing, like you're basically seeing the footage of the guy that's actually playing the game, not you. And you're like, this is weird. It doesn't really explain a whole lot. He's kind of talking. He's like opening decks of cards, and he's like, oh, I got these Inscryptions cards or whatever. So fast forward, you get to the next act, and it's like almost like Pokemon / Super Mario World, and like you see the map, and you have like it's all top down isometric kind of like Pokemon game, and you're basically going through the same area that you just went to, this cabin, except like now there's 3 other areas too. So you literally go in the cabin, you see the same like people that you were interacting with, and like you have the same type of card game, except a little bit of change, and it's all like 2D graphics like the old school game. So I was like, that was pretty intriguing. I was like, that's pretty cool. And other things happen throughout that playthrough, and you meet some other characters and other stories to it to build it, and then you beat that. And then it moves on to this next act. And again, there's more videos to like see this story that's building, and you're like, what the hell is going on here? To the point where I literally messaged Daydrinker because I said, whoa, I don't know how I feel about this.
Yeah.
The game asked me at one point, there's a prompt that comes on the screen and says, give me access to your computer, yes or no. And if you hover over yes or no, it turns to yes. So it doesn't matter which one it is, it's yes. So I was like, okay, whatever. So I click the no, which is yes. And it then shows me a file tree of like different drives. And I'm like, well, there's like 6 drives, and I have 6 drives. That's interesting. There's like a C drive, and E. And I'm like, and I click on like the C drive, and it's like, oh, Windows, and it's like Windows.old. I'm like, wait a minute. I have a Windows.old because I just went to Windows 11. And then I went down to like my E drive, which is like my NAS, where I have all my movies. And I'm like, I can see all my movies. What the f? I'm like, dude, what is happening right now? This game literally has access to my. So I'm like kind of weirded out by this, because that seems kind of weird.
This is why you should stream more often when you're gaming, is so you can share this stuff. Because I actually knew about that and didn't say anything about it.
Yeah.
So this part happens, and what the game is telling you is like basically. You can help beat me by selecting a file that is large in size, essentially. So I'm like looking through, I'm like, oh, well, I'll pick a 2 gig movie, because like those are pretty large. And it drops this massive block on the scale, and it like, destroys the enemy. And I'm like, all right, cool. So he's like, all right, the last challenge is, pick something that's really old. I want to see something that's like the oldest and the largest file that you can find. Like the, whatever in those scale, is the greater, is like that's going to be more points or whatever. So I was like, okay, cool.
This is how Zycia's machine got locked by ransomware.
So I looked through a folder, and I've had on my PC since 2013, because I've floated it from different machines, and it's like a story that I was writing at some point. And so it's like a really old file. It's like 2013. And I select that, and it's like, by the way, this file, if you lose this match, I'm going to delete it. So hopefully it's not something super important. And I'm like, what? So
Huh?
I'm like in disbelief, and of course I'm trying to win this match, and it's like if the card deletes, not even if I lose, if that card gets beaten, because it takes the file and it makes a card out of it, so it gives it stat points, and it's like if this card loses, it's gone, and I'm like, oh no, this isn't good. So I luckily beat it, and I'm like sitting here like in disbelief, going like I can't believe this game. Like for one, I didn't even think I gave it permissions to do the things that it did, but apparently I did, which is kind of weird. And then it's like talking about deleting shit off my hard drive, which was really more strange to me. So
Mike sends it to me. I'm like, wait, so you didn't let him delete it, did you? Like you didn't. He's like, yeah, I did. Like I was like, and he's like, but don't worry, I didn't lose. And I was like, well, thank God. Like I was kidding. We've had to deal with cybersecurity stuff for our jobs. It was just like I was panicking.
Yeah.
For him.
I was definitely freaked out. So there's like, and I'm not going to go into any further than that as far as the game spoiler stuff, but ultimately I got a lot of vibes of what was the game? So like if you guys ever played Metal Gear Solid 2, towards the end of that game, it gets kind of weird. Like things almost break the fourth wall, or things do break the fourth wall, and like it starts acting really funky and kind of takes you out of the normal game that you've been playing for 10 hours straight because you had nothing else to do during Thanksgiving and you played that game till you beat it. But like your brain is like, you're kind of like foggy, and then like things start freaking out and you're like, whoa, what the hell's going on here? It had that same sense of feeling in this game, which kept me playing, which was kind of wild. But literally I played it within like 3 or 4 days. I think it was 3 days, and I beat it. And like when it was done, I was just like, I felt like I was the character going like, oh my God, I'm just destroying this thing and I'm letting it go and I'm never going to touch it again. Like it felt like Jumanji. Like it was like this game that you should not really play, but I did, and I happened to survive, and here I am. So
that's awesome.
Super cool game. Highly recommend it if that's your thing. Like I said, the base mechanic of card building, deck building is in this game. You cannot take that out. You're going to have to be able to be at least decent at it to win, to be able to finish the game. But if you can deal with that and play the rest of the game, it's such a great experience.
Yeah.
Hands down. Definitely my game of the year so far. My game of the year, and it's going to take a lot to beat that for me this year.
Wow, that's huge.
See, now that says something that I can demonstrate a game that I dislike.
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough that other people actually purchase it and play it.
Yeah, I finished Inscryption, and Mike already explained the entire game. My end review of it is it was good, but I felt like it was really easy. And I expected, because of like the theme to the game and how like almost dark it kind of was, that it would be a lot more unforgiving than it was. But overall, the game's kind of like, it gives you a lot of outs to get through things that you otherwise like should just not be able to get through so easily.
And the multipliers too. Another thing I will say though, it has a lot of Easter eggs. There's a lot of hidden things in this game, just clicking around. Actually, I saw a video today. Is like there was a video of like the top 5 Easter eggs in games of 2021, and this game was number 1 because one of the Easter eggs is like a certain sequence that you have to play something and click on something randomly in a certain spot of this one screen that gives you a like fake website link or something to go to this website to then look through the source code and find this other thing to like use in the game. I mean, it's like this crazy, stupid. I'll have to send you guys a video. We'll post the link to the thing. But it was like, like I was like, wow. Obviously, I didn't find that, but like, damn, like to the developers to like put something in that obscure is like insane. So
it's a really cool game that almost borders on like an ARG, like it's legitimately almost like an augmented reality kind of thing, because they're messing with things external to the game, which gives it an aspect that was really interesting that I haven't seen in a while. But again, the game for me, because I look for I really like games, and I went into that game thinking it was going to be challenging, And then I was like, no, it's definitely more of a for fun game. Like you kind of roll with it and enjoy the weirdness and the quirkiness of all the different aspects of the game.
Yeah,
which was fun.
And just to follow up with you guys, I did look it up. It does not actually delete files. It's actually kind of interesting. It does have read access, and they said Steam wouldn't allow a game on their platform that could have read and write access to your hard drive.
Right.
Like that's not going to happen. But it does have read access, and if you do lose, what it does is it makes another file. It actually places a file in the location of where that file is located, called whatever it was .deleted. And if you open that file, it'll say like, come on, man, I couldn't delete it, but like man up and go through with the offer that the plan that we shook on, like delete the file or something like that. and apparently if you do delete it, the game, when you play it again, it'll actually recognize that and say like, you manned up, like you deleted it, like look at you. And it's like, what do you want, like an achievement or something? I'm not giving you an achievement, and it just moves on. Like that's it.
Nice. Nice.
So, yeah, super cool game. Definitely appreciate it. So so that's the games we've been playing and the games we want to talk about this week. And usually this is where we move into emails, which we don't have any. But feel free to send us one. Emails. GOA@sassgaming.com. So again, that's what got our attention this week. Check us out, sassgaming.com, for all of our social and links information. And if you want to contribute to us and give us a little bit more just for whatever reason, patreon.com/sassgaming as well. So until next week, actually, we will see you guys soon. And take care. Be safe. See you.
Bye.
Later.
Yeah.